Have you ever looked at the numbers in your business and felt that knot in your stomach? That kind where you start doing math in your head, payroll, rent, supply, and you realize something doesn't add up. But you still open the door the next morning. You still smile at customers. You still tell yourself it's going to work out. Because that's what business owners do. We push through. We stay busy. We keep going. I know that feeling because I've been there. A few years ago, I was sitting in a concrete step behind my coffee shop, and in the middle of a freight train shaking the ground, my wife told me something that made my stomach stop. If payroll was today, we couldn't cover it. And that moment eventually turned into a $163,000 lesson. Let me explain. Every afternoon after my shift at the mill, I drive straight to the coffee shop. Most of the time, I still smell like steel and grinding dust. And before I went in, I'd quickly swap my shirt full of burn hole from welding and wipe my face off in the truck mirror so I didn't scare the customers away. Then I'd grab an Americano. Not to be fancy, just to have something warm to hold while I was pretending everything was still under control. My wife and I had our routine. We'd step out the back door and sit on the concrete step behind the shop. It wasn't exactly romantic, just a gravel parking lot full of cars, a dumpster right beside us, and a train track maybe 100 feet away, the kind of place no one take picture of. My wife would come out with her drink and cigarettes, and we'd sit there shoulder to shoulder for a few minutes before going back in and doing it all again. And what's weird is I both looked forward to and dreaded that step at the same time. It was the only time of the day where I felt like I was really in it with her, where we talk about good customer feedback, frustrating employee situation, exciting ideas, and also hard realities. Sometimes we celebrated wins, sometimes we solved problems, and sometimes we just sat there in silence. There was something about that moment that made me feel like I actually had a role in it. Like I wasn't just standing on the outside of the business. That was where the hard conversation happened. And I learned to feel that tension in my chest before we even sat down, because that's where reality always showed up. That afternoon, a freight train was passing, not just in the background. It was loud, long, shaking everything. The ground was vibrating. You couldn't even hear yourself think. When she lit her cigarette, her hand was trembling. And at first, I just thought she was cold, but I could see it in her face. Something wasn't right. We waited for the train to clear, and while we waited, that familiar knot formed in my stomach. Not fear of a problem, fear of a number you can't outrun. And when the train finally passed, everything went quiet. She turned to me and said, if payroll was today, we wouldn't even have enough left on the home equity line of credit to cover it. That was the only money we had access to. The credit card were maxed. We were behind on rent. And we were hoping the next few days of sales would save us. Hoping. That word still makes my stomach turn. Because hope is what you lean on when you don't have a system. I dropped my head and pressed my teeth together until it hurt. Inside my head, it was simple. Find money. Fix this. Make it stop. Not because I was trying to fix the business. Because I needed my wife to be okay. We pulled $15,000 out of my retirement plan. Not because I was thinking about retirement, because we needed air. When that money hit our account, I didn't feel proud. I felt relief, but only for a minute. We went to the bank because we were trying to handle it the way you're supposed to. We had good credit. We had never missed a payment. We weren't gamblers. We were trying to build our business. I remember sitting in that meeting feeling hopeful. The tone was positive. It felt like we were being treated like real business owners. But then the next day, the call came. Denied. Not long enough in business, he says. We were mad. He was polite and professional, but the frustrating part was this. The reason they denied us was exactly why we needed the money. We hadn't been in business long enough. That was the whole point. That kind of rejection doesn't just hit your wallet. It messes with your head. My wife ended up finding one of those fast online lenders. They approved us in 24 hours, $30,000. And when you're drowning, that kind of speed feels like rescue, at least until you slow down and really look at the terms. They were taking 3% of our daily sales, pulled automatically from the debit machine every single day before we even touch a dollar. That was the catch. Payroll was the next morning. We didn't have room to walk away. I remember sitting across from her, looking at the numbers, thinking, this doesn't fix the problem. It makes it worse. We already didn't have enough cash flow. Now, they were going to take 3% off the top every day too. But we had no other option. And I hated that. When the money hit, the panic eased for a bit. Payroll got paid. We had a little bit of breathing room. But deep down, I knew we hadn't fixed anything. Eventually, the $30,000 ran out. That 3% sure didn't. That's where it got brutal. We had to choose between payroll or rent. There was never a debate about payroll. Our biggest fear was not being able to pay our employees. So rent fell behind month after month. From the outside, we still looked open, but from the inside, we were shrinking. And that kind of pressure wears on you slowly. My wife's depression got heavier. That's when we made the decision. We set a date. If we didn't sell by that date, we would close and take our losses. And we made one promise to each other. No more lying to ourselves. No more pretending it was fine. No more borrowing to delay the truth. When the day came, we locked the doors. I expected to feel failure, but instead, I felt relief. The daily emergency stopped. The debt didn't disappear, but the bleeding stopped. Standing on that concrete step after we closed, something shifted. Not motivation, more like I finally saw it for what it was. That coffee shop turned into a $163,000 lesson. And here's what still bugs me. A year before we closed, I had listened to a business audiobook, and it was uncomfortable to hear, but it made so much sense. It said most businesses fail in the first few years, and the one that survived past 5 years, most of them are barely surviving. Not thriving, surviving. Because the owner is trapped working in the business instead of on the business. I remember hearing this and thinking, that's us. That's exactly us. We were grinding every day, but nothing was built on purpose. The book broke it down simply. How many customers comes every day? What's the average sale? What happened if you increase it by $5? How do you intentionally bring people back instead of hoping they return? Build a list, follow up, create repeat visit, increase what each customer is worth over time. It wasn't hype, it was math, it was structure. We even started collecting email addresses. We talked about creating a VIP club. We put a clipboard by the register so customers could leave their email. But we never sent a single email, not one. Because understanding something and actually implementing it are two different things. But here's what happened next. At the mill, while I was welding, I'd listen to podcasts and audiobook about marketing. And I'd get fired up. Every day I seemed to come back with another idea. We should try this. What about that? Maybe we could do this differently. Then I'd walk into the coffee shop full of ideas. But she was already carrying the customers, the staff, the suppliers, payroll, and depression. And on top of all that, I was expecting her to somehow become the marketing department too. I knew I should have been the one figuring it out. But instead of bringing her a real plan, I was bringing her more things to think about, more ideas, not something we could actually implement. After a 10-hour shift, I'd stock shelf, run for groceries, clean toilet, mop floors, wash dishes, or jump behind the till. I told myself I was helping, but we were stuck in the same pattern. Open the doors, hope for a good day, scramble when it wasn't, borrow money, then do it all again the next day. We kept doing the same thing over and over, expecting somehow things would change. And it didn't matter how much money we borrowed. Without changing the structure of how the business operated, we would always end up in the same place. I was doing exactly what the audiobook warned me about. Working in the business, not on it. It made myself feel productive by being busy, but busy doesn't build systems. Busy doesn't create steady growth. And if I'm being honest, underneath all of that was something I didn't want to admit to myself. I didn't understand computers. I couldn't even confidently log into my own emails on a computer without asking my kids where things were. So instead of learning it, I avoided it. That wasn't leadership. That was fear. After we closed, I thought the problem was brick and mortar, that our town was too small. I thought less overhead would fix it. So I got attracted to building an online business. And that's when I fell in the rabbit hole. YouTube, courses, expert, tactics everywhere, information scattered, everyone selling a piece of the puzzle. At a 10X Growth conference hosted by Grant Cardone, I invested $1,000 into a digital marketing program. And honestly, it was powerful. Things like social media marketing, paid advertising, how campaigns were actually structured. It opened my eyes. It proved something important. Instead of spending all my time trying to save the business by doing every little job myself, I should have been investing in myself and learned the skills that actually grow a business. Skills that keep paying you back long after the work is done. But the deeper I went, I started noticing something. The principles were the same everywhere. Create a strong offer. Build a list of your customers. Follow up with them. Give them more value and increase what each customer is worth over time. It wasn't magic. It was real marketing. Then I went through Russell Brunson One Funnel Away Challenge. And honestly, I couldn't believe how much I was learning for just a few $100. They were explaining things nobody had ever shown me before. Why most websites don't actually bring in customers. Why most advertising get ignored. How to give customer a real reason to act. And for the first time, marketing didn't feel confusing anymore. It started to feel structured, almost like welding. Step by step. If you follow the process, it works. Every step had a purpose. Every piece connected to the next. It wasn't just post on Facebook and hope. It was designing the whole path a customer takes. From the moment they first hear about your business, to their first visit, to the reason they come back again. And suddenly, it hit me. This wasn't just for online businesses. These same principle could have worked in my coffee shop or any small town business. And that hit me hard. Because in the past, I would have told myself, I'm just a welder. I'm not smart enough for all this stuff. But going through that challenge made me realize something. I wasn't dumb. I had just never been shown the right process in the right order. Later on, when I discovered Dan Kennedy, the deeper connection clicked. Russell Brunson didn't invent some brand new magic trick. He took proven marketing principles and made them easier to follow, easier to see, and easier to implement. And that's why it all made so much sense. What I was learning wasn't just for internet businesses. It was the same kind of thinking small town business owners like me should have been using all along. It didn't matter whether it was online or a coffee shop. Online is just where the customer comes from. Without a clear marketing system, you're just hoping people show up. And that's when it became clear. I didn't need a different type of business. I needed a system, a way to bring customers in on purpose, get them to come back and increase what each customer was worth over time. Every successful business operates with a clear marketing system. Not luck, not hope, a system. A system that increase the amount of each customer spend per visit, capture contact information, create second and third visit on purpose, build long-term customers value, turn buyers into repeat customers and repeat customers into referrals. Some people call it direct response marketing. Some people call it funnels. Whatever you call it, the point is the same. You need a real system. We didn't fail because we lacked effort. We failed because we didn't have what I now call a small town business growth system. And I'm not saying that like I'm some kind of guru. I'm saying it like a guy who learned this the hard way and wishes someone had showed him sooner. And the painful truth, instead of running around trying to look busy, I should have been investing in myself, learning how to play offense. Instead, I was running my business defensively, cutting costs, trying to survive another week, hoping things would stabilize. But I had no offensive strategy, no real plan to attract more customers. And in business, just like in hockey, you can't win if you never score. You can have the best defense in the league, but if you don't put goals on the board, you still lose the game. And that's exactly what we were doing. Working harder, cutting expenses, trying to survive the next week, but never actually focusing on building a system to bring more customers in on purpose. And no one had ever shown me how to build that system in a way small town business owners could actually use. And if you're anything like I was back then, you're probably doing the same thing right now. Working hard, staying busy, hoping that somehow things finally turn around. But without a real system, you don't drift into steady growth, you drift into stress. And the truth is, I had already learned this lesson once before, just not in business. I learned it when I became a welder. Back then, I didn't even know what a weld was. My uncle had to literally explain it to me using the metal joint on one of the kitchen chair. When I started welding school, I was so behind the rest of the class. One instructor pulled me aside and told me I was too slow, that maybe welding wasn't for me. That hit hard. It made me feel stupid, like maybe I picked the wrong career. But I didn't quit. I stuck with it. I focused on the process. I followed the steps, and even though I wasn't the fastest, I stayed consistent. 2 years later, that same instructor pulled me aside again. But this time, he apologized. He said he was wrong about me, and I ended up finishing in the top of my class. And that proved something to me. It might take me longer to learn something, but if I follow the structure and stay with it, I will get there. After I graduated and started my welding career, that lesson multiplied. I was fortunate to be placed alongside older welders, guys with 20, 30 years of experience. I would spend a few months with each of them. And at first, it felt almost unfair. Every single day, I was learning something new. Techniques they had learned through years of mistakes, frustration, and hard jobs. And they were giving it to me. Little adjustments that make work cleaner, faster, stronger, safer. Things that would have taken me years to figure out alone. First, I had to learn the fundamentals from them. Then I started taking the best of each of them. One guy's setup process, another guy's positioning, another guy's efficiency trick. I absorbed their system. Then I began trying those techniques myself, tweaking them, adapting them, eventually developing my own way of doing things. And my mantra back then was, I'll take the best of everybody, and one day I'll be the best. Not arrogant, hungry, focused. And over time, I wasn't the young guy anymore. I became the one people asked for advice, the one leading jobs, the one solving problems. And now I'm one of those guys with over 20 years of experience. That didn't happen because I guessed. It didn't happen because I worked harder than everyone else. It happened because I learned from people who were ahead of me and implemented what they taught me. Business is no different. And that's the part I missed the first time around. I should have done the same thing in my business. Look, if you ever felt that knot in your stomach, looking at numbers that don't work, if you ever believed more effort would fix it, if you ever stayed busy just to avoid admitting something isn't working, you're not broken. You're missing a small town business growth system. Not motivation, not another loan, not longer hours, a small town business growth system. A system that turns buyer into repeat customers and repeat customers into referrals. And once you build one, efforts finally start to count. If someone sat me down back then and showed me a clear step-by-step marketing system, not random tip, not post more on Facebook, not another ad that may or may not work, but an actual process for attracting customers, capturing the information, and bringing them back again and again, there's a very good chance that coffee shop would still be open today. And that's exactly why I'm sharing this with you now. Because the fastest way I know to learn that today is something I wish I had back then. It's called a Selling Online event. It's a 3-day training by Russell Brunson where he breaks down how to actually build offers, system, and customer journey. So you're not relying on hope anymore. I'll put the Selling Online event link down below. And quick heads up, I am an affiliate for it. If you go through, I get paid. That's not why I'm telling you about it. I'm sharing it because this is exactly the kind of system I didn't have when we were running that coffee shop. And not having it cost us $163,000. Because at the time we were doing what most business owners do. Working hard, staying busy, hoping things will turn around. But we didn't have a way to bring in customer in on purpose or bring them back consistently. And that's the shift this kind of training helped me see. Not just marketing, but how to build a business that doesn't rely on guessing anymore. And the truth is, this works just as well for a small town business as it does online. Because your customers are already online. They're scrolling, they're searching, they're deciding. And if you don't have a system to meet them there, someone else's does. So if you're serious about finally building something predictable, click the link down below and check it out. And if you're not ready for that yet, Join the Small Town Business Growth Secret community. That's where we break it down in a way that actually makes sense for small town business like ours. I'll put both links down below. And if this way of thinking makes sense to you, subscribe, because this is what I'm focused on now. Helping small town business owners stop guessing and start building something that actually works. Because if you don't have a system, you're just starting from scratch every single day.